Hey everybody, welcome and thanks for coming to my workshop for how to leverage automation for generator dealers, specifically for generator dealers. I just want to get a quick check on the volume and everything. I think we're all good. Thanks for shooting in text. FM generator, nice to see you here. I know there's a bunch of other guys in here, maybe a little shy to use the chat. It's all good. We're just going to get right into it and start talking about marketing automation, right? So this is a little bit part of the bigger picture, marketing automation specifically to help us, increase our revenue. There's definitely some real proof and real numbers behind how much marketing automation can increase your revenue and build your business if you wanted to go from 700,000 a year to a million two or a million five or 2 million. Marketing automation is definitely where you need to be at, especially if lead flow really isn't the problem. You're closing all the calls that you're getting and you're closing, and you want to really figure out what's happening behind those leads that don't convert for whatever reason. So part of this. Hey, Brett, thanks for chiming in from East Capital. All right. Okay, so this big picture is really part of this accelerated growth model. So this is a lot that's going on. I mean, a lot to think about with driving leads, with making sure that those leads convert into a form fill or a phone call, and then looking at your results and making sure that you're getting a return on your investment. So you're spending money for marketing, and we want to make sure that you're getting a return back on what you're spending. And there's a lot of things in here that go along with it that you can integrate specifically with automation. But leading up to that point, getting into that lead flow point, we're talking about all of these different aspects where you're driving leads using your website or Google Ads, email marketing, things like that. And then you're checking on your conversion to make sure that your website's dialed in and make sure that your reputation's dialed in. And these are the things that you need to have in place to finally close the lead, get the lead converted, and then having an idea of how much total spend you have, and is that returning, what channels are working, what channels do not work. So there's a lot of pieces of this puzzle, and on this accelerated growth model, we want to talk more closely, and what we're zooming in here on the automation aspect of this bigger picture. So every month I break down each one of these pieces, and I know there's a few people here that have checked out a few of the other webinars. So I'm just going to kind of dial it down a little bit, just tell you a little bit who I am, and why you should listen to me. So I'm not an electrician. I'm a marketer by trade. I'm actually a graphic artist by trade. I have 18 years experience in the marketing field. I've have a generator agent dealer agency for the last 10 years. We've built websites and we've worked with generator dealers since 2014. And over time, we have just kind of just built this library of channels and keywords and all this information that we have that work for generator dealers across the United States. And now we're just really dialing it in on creating one solid program for generator dealers, make sure everything works. And the automation is a big piece of this. And I'm going to get into what works for automation, what doesn't work for automation, and things that you can actually execute now to help you build that revenue on a regular basis. And I'm also the author of Digital Marketing for Generated Dealers. You can check that on my website too. We're actually offering this book for free. If you just fill out the form on the website, we'll get you in for free and we'll ship it to you. I'm also a member of EXA and the NEGDA, which is the Northeastern, actually it's the National Emergency Generator Dealer Association. I spoke there at an event last month in Princeton. And that's it. And now here's my executive team. We are on a mission to help 100 generated dealers double or triple their revenue day in and day out. We are creating websites, writing content, doing social media, running pay-per-click ads, and building automation profiles for generator dealers solely on a daily basis. So everything that I'm going to show you today is not theory. It's all based on actual real world experience building these automations into existing generator dealer companies throughout the United States. And we're going to show you what we know that's working and what we know that you can execute. So moving on from that, what are our biggest challenges, right? So what are our biggest challenges when it comes to marketing? Feel free to put that in the chat. Like what is your biggest challenge? A lot of times I hear there's not enough leads, right? So a lot of generator dealers would call me up and say, just not getting enough leads. And I know that there's competition, and I know that my Google profile isn't great and I don't get a lot of reviews, but I used to get leads and I just don't get them anymore. That's like typically the biggest challenge that comes in. Another challenge is the low quality. So We're all familiar with Power Play and the leads that come in through Generac Power Play, and they're not great. Even leads that come in from Facebook, they're not great. So one of the biggest challenges most people are having is that the leads are just not great quality. And then maybe the lead cost is just too high, right? So you're putting out $3,000 or $4,000 a month or even more for Google ads or Facebook ads. And you're getting the leads and you're closing the deals and you're getting the business. But after you've paid your guys and after you paid for your equipment, you're getting you got your trucks and you're trying to scale your company a little bit. There's not a whole lot left. And it's like you feel like you're just kind of in this rat race. We're just chasing your tail the whole time, where you're putting out money and you're getting money in, putting it out, getting it in. So that's another one of the bigger factors, is that the lead cost is just too high and there's not enough return on the investment. The other thing too is just a lack of clear tracking. So we just don't know what's working, right? I know my marketing's work. I know half my marketing's working. I just don't know which half, right? So you want to make sure that everything is properly tracked, especially what channels work. Is your Facebook ads working more than your Google ads? Is your SEO up to date? Is your SEO working? Do the postcards work? Does the radio ads work? Does wrapping the trucks work? This kind of thing is important to know. And one of the bigger things too, that people come to us and just say, we just don't know what's working. We kind of just can't make heads or tails of that. The other thing too is that there's just too many options, right? There's so many things that you can do for your website, for radio, for pay-per-click, whether it's Google or Facebook or Angie's List, and it's just coming from all these different areas. And every single day you're getting a phone call from somebody else. Oh, we got to install a form on your website and it's going to close more deals. Another guy will call in and say, you only have to pay for every single lead. You get another guy that comes in and says, I got the perfect recipe for Facebook and it's just going to bring you dozens of leads. So there's just so much stuff going on and there's so many options that you just don't know where to turn. And what's the proper way to do it? What's the best channel to focus on? Where do we focus our money and our budget? Here are the options, right? So there's a ton of options all the way around this circle. It's just all these different things that you can focus on, and not one of them makes you can't kind of figure out exactly which ones are gonna really do the most bang for your buck, right, so to speak. So, but the biggest issue is that maybe lead flow is not the problem, right? So you're getting all these leads are coming in, great, and you're closing business. I mean, I just spoke to a company just last week who said, "Oh, we're doing great. Our referral business is great. We get a lot of people are just referring us, and they talk about us on Facebook, and the radio does really good, and we're doing great. We're doing fine, no problem, and lead flow is not an issue, right?" But those leads that are coming in, we're only closed maybe about 15% or even less, right? So maybe they also have power play involved and they only got even less than that. So if you imagine what they could possibly do if they had all of this dialed in, you can really understand that you're going to close more business when you have it all really dialed in. But when lead flow isn't the problem, we want to figure out the biggest challenge, which is mostly just unconverted leads, unconverted estimates, unconverted service contract calls, things like that sometimes you just don't know what's working, what's not working, and why aren't you closing these leads? Why is it 20, 30%? You're getting the phone call, they're calling you, right? So sometimes it's just hard to figure that out. And the problem with leads, first of all, we got 90% of the people that get to your website, they don't convert. And there's a lot of issues, there's a lot of reasons for that. If your website is not fully dialed in, there's a reason for that. But think about that, right? If you get your website fully dialed in and you help with the conversion process, you can't just think that, well, my website, my phone number's on there, my form is on there, we're good. We got some good pictures, some great content, the website looks beautiful. That's good, but you have to make sure that all of these aspects are dialed in. And there are a few additional ones that you may not have, and may not even thought about, or you may not want, that you need to have on the site. And 50 to 60% of inbound leave unconverted. So when they finally do get to your site, they're leaving the site unconverted. And then 90% of those web forms will also fail to convert. So they're actually filling out the form and 90% of them will not convert. And there's reason for that. So today's consumer prefers to book online versus call in and speak to somebody. I mean, if you were looking for somebody to help you with, something with your house, would you rather pick up the phone, call them and schedule the appointment, or would you rather pick up the phone and text somebody? I think texting is just easier, right? So you want to make sure that that is an option. If given the choice, they will text versus call or even email. They will always text. We're dealing with a younger generation now. Younger people are going to want to move a little bit quicker than a phone call. And leads that are not followed up within 15 minutes go cold. There's some reason behind that too. I mean, if they're going to call and leave a message, well, that's the worst thing. If they're going to fill out the form, they're going to go to a competitor. They're going to fill out a form there. So it then becomes a game of who's the first to respond, who's the first company, first generator dealer to respond to that incoming message is going to win, right? Because they're going to fill out the form or they're going to send a text. If they get response right away, they stop in their tracks. And even further than that, if they're going to book on your website, they stop in their tracks. So this is really just a mind game, right? So you just want to make sure they believe that they're set. They got the book, they have the schedule is booked and they're good to go. That's it. They're not going to look anymore. So, and the average unconverted customer must be followed up with 5 to 7 times before they actually schedule. Simple math, right? Number of generator leads we get is 30. If we're converting at 30%, just an average with no follow-up, okay? They get 9 installs booked. They're converting at 30%, which is at about, and your average install is about 14 grand. 9 jobs, 14 grand, $126,000 for the month. And that's just it. Now, if we increase that conversion rate, with follow-up to 70%, coming up from 30 to 70, with the same number of leads, you still get 30 leads, and you're increasing with follow-up, and now we have 70%. You just do that math, right? Jobs booked, we get 21 instead of 9 at that same install price at 14,000. We're at 294,000. This is tremendous increase in ROI. Even if it wasn't 70%, even if it was 10%, you're still increasing the ROI. All you have to do is install or implement some automation in place. And what happens there is it makes every lead more valuable, right? So when you're converting the leads at a higher rate, you can then spend more money on ads, you can put more money into your website, and you can just make every single lead more valuable by converting at a higher percentage, right? So then the more visitors that come to your website will convert more, and then the more visitors that have more attention from your automation will convert even more. So conversion is key. It doesn't mean just having the website and a great reputation and everything isn't enough. You have to have it all dialed in. And then we go to estimates. Same kind of issue with estimates. 2 to 5 estimates for generators go stale after about a month of no activity. How many people just send out the estimate and the estimate's out and you do maybe one follow-up a week later and then that's it. And then there's no follow-up after that, or maybe a week after that. Everyone has a stale estimate contacts that they do nothing with. So, and even an email list that you do nothing with. These are prime people that are going to install or they're going to open the service contract, right? They're going to execute at some point or they want to execute. You have an estimate out. So the point is you have to continuously follow up until you get a hard no, or I went somewhere else, or whatever that is. So this is kind of where automation comes in because a lot of the times it's like, oh, well, I don't have a sales team and it's just kind of me, or it's me and this other guy, or me and like three technicians, and you don't have people doing the office work. That's fine, but that's more importantly where you want automation to be in play. Well, right. So maybe the office manager, maybe this is you, right? You just got so much hitting you at one time, and you just don't have the ability to open up. And the reason why the estimates don't call is for all the same reasons. Customer needs to be followed up with at least 5 to 7 times before they actually make that decision. And today's consumer again prefers to communicate via text message. Easiest thing in the world to do is to send an estimate and then turn on an automation for text messages that follows up every single week until you get a hard no, a response, or a yes. It was even me. I mean, I installed a generator. It took me a month to get somebody in to get an estimate. And then I spent 9 months saving for it and making that very long decision, and then I finally just called up and say, hey, are we good to go on that price? Can we just do it? Let's do it. I'm ready. That kind of thing. Or I got a message at some point and they said, hey, don't forget we offer financing. That's enough to say, all right, yeah, then maybe we'll do it. That'll help. So here's some of the solutions for this. Leverage marketing automation to follow up estimates that are not sent. They're not sent within the first week of submission via phone, email, and text message. Try to follow up with all three aspects. And you automate that follow up so that every prospect is touched five to seven times within 2 weeks of, and be able to engage with a two-way text strategy because that's primarily what people are looking for. And automate a steady follow up on estimate process for the next 6 weeks. Actually, Service Titan or House Call Pro, I think estimates are good for about 60 days. So I would even hold those estimates out for the entire 60 days and just like in that last 10 days, send that final email and say, don't forget your estimate's going to expire in a couple of days. Just let me know if you'd like us to renew it, if you're still thinking about things. So this is just stuff that you could just automate, have do all by itself. So here's a few of the primary things that you want to have in place. The first thing is to engage how your customers want to engage. So like I said about the text messaging and the phone calls, they don't always want to call. Some of the biggest trends, 73% of consumers prefer booking services such as, plumbing or electrical, HVAC, et cetera, that kind of thing. This number comes from valveandmeter.com. 73%. This is the most of the leads that they would rather communicate with you via text message. So, oh, I'm sorry, booking services online. So actually booking the initial estimate or the review on site on the website before they even connect with you. Online bookings jumped 52% since 2019 to 2023. And this is also a metric that's being followed pretty heavily. Businesses that offer online booking see an average increase of 120%, up to 120% of increased revenue. And then small local businesses averaging 27% lift after that implementation. And then 45% of bookings happen during off-peak hours. So this is more importance on some automation for off-peak hours. This is great information for you to understand because you don't want voicemails after hours or on the weekends at night. Most of you guys probably have answering services for emergencies, things like that. But nevertheless, good information to have. Online scheduling is business critical. So, I mean, I can go on forever on all these trends, mobile first, a self-service matter, that kind of thing. Efficiencies, profitability, we all know that. So if your automation is efficient and dialed in, this is gonna lead to what it says. Revenue justification is clear, 27 to 120% lift in your revenue, and it also helps you stay competitive, right? It's what keeps you in game. So all these competition competitors are coming up, Generator, Supercenter, and whatnot. And these bigger companies have enough money to acquire new customers, right? I can't remember the guy's name, but somebody once said that the company that has the most money to spend to acquire a new customer will win. So when you have automation dialed in and your conversion rate is super high, you can spend more money to get more leads. Statistics show 98% of all text messages are open. 98%. I'm thinking that number is a little bit higher nowadays, honestly. And 95% of messages are open and responded to within 3 minutes. So text messaging is huge. SMS messaging to leads, thanking them for reaching out, for stale estimates, for follow-up, for service contracts, all of that stuff. SMS text messages are big. So our next thing is our speed to lead, right? Follow up quickly. Some reasons why we want to follow up quickly. Not followed up within 15 minutes, go cold. Like I said, that's somebody who's on the website and there's no booking, there's no scheduling on your site, there's no chat on your site. You can't text the message, so they've got to either call or they have to fill out a form. Once they do that, they're going to the next company and they're looking for the same thing. Can I book online? Can I text message? Can I call or submit a form? As soon as they have that schedule booked, it's now out of mind and they stop looking. It's done. They just want to put it down, right? So they're going to fill out the form, go to the next company, and whoever responds first will win. And I mean, think about it, how you would go about doing this. if you wanted to get a new generator installed, or even, a new air conditioning system or some kind of a big install kind of thing, you would probably go with the company that's going to respond first, or you're at least going to have the schedule the appointment with them first. Follow up within 5 minutes is 21 times more effective than calling after 30 minutes. So after 5 minutes, the odds of qualifying a lead drop by 80%. I think you guys all know this. You have salespeople or you've done the sales yourself that, and in my experience, we don't have any clients that will let a lead go beyond 5 minutes. Even if they're out in the field and they get a lead buzz on their cell phone, they're going to stand up, they're going to go walk onto the yard, and they're going to call up that lead. So I think we're all kind of good there. So in talking about leveraging automation, ideal outcomes for leads, allowing customers to at least soft book a time online. So I think when I said, hey, book into your schedule online, right? I know that that's very difficult to do, especially if you have, 8 to 10 service technicians out there and you're installing 10 generators a week or whatever it is, and you guys are super busy and you have a monster schedule and you got dispatchers in and out. You cannot possibly have a customer come in and just book into your schedule. So soft booking means you have what seems like a live scheduler or a live calendar on your website. Maybe just set up some time where you think it would be up free or whatever's available. It doesn't matter. What you want is the lead. You want them to feel comfortable with what they're booking. And then if it doesn't work, have your dispatcher, have your sales reach out and say, hey, listen, Bob, I saw that you booked an appointment for 2 o'clock Friday. I'm wondering if you can change it to 3:30, or if you wouldn't mind waiting until Monday, we'd love to come out. This gets the lead in the door. It also stops them in their tracks. They feel like they booked the schedule, they scheduled that appointment. They're not going to go searching around with the competitors, and they're going to maybe wait for you to contact them or confirm that appointment. Every lead gets an email and an SMS within 30 seconds of submission, and a call from someone on your company within 5 minutes. And then every lead is followed up with at least 7 times via email, SMS, and phone. Now there's a million different ways to do this, but even if you have a salesperson or a sales team that are facilitating the leads, and the lead comes in, they call out, they leave a voicemail, and then they hang up, they move on to the next lead. So whatever process that salesperson has, that salesperson should have the ability to execute a workflow that will automatically try to get that person on the phone or get that person to respond or communicate in some way so that that salesperson can worry about the future leads that are coming in. So this is actually just kind of like an idea of what a workflow would look like. When the lead comes in, you have all of these different things happen: SMS messaging, email marketing, all the way through to, okay, great, you're interested. Let's get you on the schedule. Have them do a little soft book on the site. So now I'm going to get into the details of that. But if you could execute any of this, do you think that you can convert at a higher rate? Do you think that the challenge of lead flow not being the problem and it's more about conversion, do you think that having some of this automation in place could actually yield revenue? I don't think anybody would be here on this webinar if they didn't think that was possible. So I'm going to get into some of, how we can implement this all into your business. I think we're at a point in this webinar where you guys kind of get the point. Yes, we need automation. Yes, we want to figure out how to automate it. How do we do that? So I'll try to get into that a little bit. We have workflows in place where you can just, even coming from ads, what you want to do is get them to your website. You want to get them to fill out the form, and then you want to have them submit, and then everything kind of just takes off from there. Now, having the proper aspects on your site dialed in, want to make sure all the normal regular stuff is properly set. Call or text and the phone number, book a job where you can actually see a schedule and do a soft booking. You have the chat down here where somebody can kind of fill out the chat form and submit, and maybe somebody will respond via that chat, and also the web form, all right there. This is the most important piece. So your website is beautiful, but you don't have these elements above the fold, which is at the top. You want to scream at them. So you speed to lead, like I said. So once the website gets there, it's a quick 2 seconds. What you do, where you do it. Yes, this is the company. What's their phone number? Can I chat? Can I book online? Can I fill out a form? Is it all right there? And people don't have a lot of attention these days, so you kind of have to scream at them. You know, Even on interior pages, we have forms that get there. So it's always there. Have the form always there. Now, AI call and answering and scheduling, I know that this is actually something new that we're going to be experimenting with soon. It's not there yet. I mean, I think everybody's had an experience with an AI phone person, and you just kind of know. For me, it's a little frustrating because there's always this momentary pause before they respond, but they do sound like real people and they do respond like real people. I wouldn't quite recommend having them answering your phones at this point, but it is better than sending somebody to a voicemail. It's not as good as having maybe a service that's educated in your field, in your industry, in the generator space to answer the phone for you, but it is better than having nothing. So this is just an example of kind of what this might look like, what these workflows look like. I'm not going to get into all the details of that. I'd be happy to go through a demo if anybody wants to see kind of all of this in action. And then just to come out to refresh on estimates, every customer would get an email and an SMS within 30 seconds of sending that estimate. And then we can follow up with that, like I said, at least 5 times throughout the entire length of the life of that estimate. This is just another workflow that we have in place for estimates. So we send the estimate, we confirm that they got it, and then we wait for a reply. We follow up again, we wait for a reply. We follow up again, we send a ringless voicemail, right? That's a voicemail that comes from your salesperson or yourself, and that gets dumped right into the person's phone so that they can see that they got a message and listen to it. And then we wait for a reply again, right? And then if not, we send a message back to the office or back to that salesperson, let them know that we've gone the whole cycle and we got nothing. So we have we have the snapshot on following up on estimates. We have the snapshot on following up on leads, keeping leads up to date, and nurturing them until we finally get them to book an appointment. We've also automated the process with postcards, right? So we want to send a postcard, even with these systems in place. With these systems in place, we can automate the process of sending a postcard on the generator startup for Service Titan. So generator startup, which basically means you've completed the job at that particular location. What we do is we send a postcard to 20 neighbors, and this is all automated. Just have to design the postcard, load it up into the system, and you automate a postcard delivery to 20 neighbors within that from that one address where you completed. And the card actually says your neighbor will never lose power again. How about you? That kind of thing. So that's a system that has been working really good. Another one is a self-booking system for your service contracts, right? So we have Bold Electric, who has 2,000, I think 2,000 maintenance contracts, and that's a lot of service that they have to do on a monthly basis. So hooked up to Service Titan or Service Fusion or House Call Pro. Once the service contract is set, all they have to do is set the location, the zone. So they've got it all separated out in zones, and then set the month for maintenance. We shoot out an email. Hello, James. Time of that year again. Please select a day and time that's convenient for you. This is the March booking window. So all they have to do is select whichever slot that they're available. There's no actual times here because Bold set up. They basically have two technicians going out to different zones during this month on these days, Tuesdays and Thursdays, Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday, Monday, Wednesday, for the entire month, so that once these get all booked in, and then this is the March booking window. So this automation goes out throughout April. And so the other automation you have in place is Google review requests. Same thing from Service Titan, House Call Pro, and Service Fusion. You have more. You do a generator startup, and then you shoot out a text message asking for a review. And I know some of these other systems have it in place. House Call Pro and Service Titan have that in place. So very good automation to have in place and make sure that you do that. And Google reviews are super important. So remember, leads not followed up within 15 minutes go cold. A follow up within five minutes. Sorry, a follow up within 5 minutes is 21 times more effective. Half the leads go with the vendor that responds first. Statistics show that 98% of all text messages are open, and 2 out of 5 estimates for generators go stale after a month of no activity. So we want to make sure that a lot of these automations are in place. And you can do it with one piece of software. You can do it with multiple pieces of software. Other automation uses, so automated reminders for warranty renewals, invoice follow-up automation, get paid faster, old lead follow-up campaigns, nurture campaigns, right? Send out an email or a newsletter every single month. It helps with, to existing customers, help with referrals. Send out an email or a text message every single month for estimates that go stale. So you have a different process and a different system for each step of the way. Automate estimate and job appointment reminders. That comes with, House Call Pro, Service Titan is starting to do that, and it's really good. Make sure that somebody knows that you're coming. Not sure how many times you've gone out to a job and they cancel on the spot or they cancel day of. It's very hard to change your schedule up. So having that automation go out, and if you've seen this, this is like this proves the point a little bit. The automation helps with that process. The customer will actually re-engage when you send them an email or a text message that says, hey, we'll be out there at 2 o'clock today. They're gonna make sure that they're there, or they're gonna call you and tell you, no, I'm not gonna be there. Automate estimate and job appointment reminders. I covered that already. And let's see. And that's where I want to make sure that we've got any questions before I move on to my last slides, because that was a lot in short amount of time. Please put it in the chat whatever questions you might have specifically pertaining to automation. And I know that a lot of companies call up and they don't really understand that the digital marketing agency, when you're marketing, can actually facilitate. But the truth is that we're trying to bridge the gap between lead and customer, and we want to make sure that that's not a gap that's unfulfilled, because it's just as important for all your marketing efforts to make sure that you're converting to leads. Having automation dialed in helps with that process. It helps increase the revenue. It helps spend more money to get more leads in and get all of your revenue goals. So I know it was a lot. So, and I feel like I've just kind of been talking for a half an hour or so. So please let me know, how do you handle a customer who seem to be bothered by the consistency and follow up on the time frame and that often? It's not that often that happens. But yeah, people get bothered and they're just going to type stop, or they're just going to respond and say, please stop sending me these notifications. Very simple. Within any kind of system, you can just set do not disturb on a customer. Make sure that they're not getting these responses. You could also adjust the frequency, but it's your job to make sure that they're being communicated with. And I don't feel like you're bothering them at all. It's more like you're just following up. You want to make sure that they understand that you guys are the best for the job, and it's not always just you don't always want to just send another message and say, hey, where are we with that estimate? You want to send another message and say, hey, we just had this great testimonial. Not sure if you're still looking, if you're still interested, want to know if anything has changed when we had this meeting. You were interested, and I just want to make sure that the estimate is still available for you. You still have it. We're installing generators in these areas, and customers are happy, provide the testimonials. Things like that can help them give more information. Or even, hey, did you just want to make sure that you knew that we have financing available for the generator? You could pay as little as $150 a month or whatever it is. So you're kind of feeding them more information, more social proof, and kind of pull them over the line a little bit, at least enough for them to say, yeah, I understand all that, but it's just too much communication. And they'll respond nicely. I think it depends on how you word it. I hope that answers your question, Wes. But we've had clients that say, oh no, I don't want to bother people, but it really isn't. People appreciate the follow-up. They appreciate the reminders, so long as you're not spamming, right? So you can't spam the customer. You want to make sure that you're just consistently touching base. Okay, so that's our whole thing for automation. And like I said, we do an online marketing plan review where we actually audit your website. We'll look at your market, look at your space, and show you kind of where you stand in your space, in your local market against your competitors. We look at your competitors too. This is all free. There's no hard sale or anything like that. We'll also give you a demo on the automation and all the different systems that we can implement. And I would even recommend implementing these systems one bit at a time. Figure out what isn't working the most first, and then implement some automation to assist with your biggest issues first. So is anybody confused? Anybody have any questions? I can go through it. I'm going to be here for a few more minutes. I have no problem. Automation is tricky. And then next month I'm going to be going through, actually don't know. I think I'm going to be doing a fourth quarter touch up. So we're going to make sure that everybody's website's dialed in and make sure that things are rocking and rolling going into fourth quarter. I know everybody's busy right now. This is vacations, hurricanes and heat waves. So we're busy. Busy is good, so want to make sure that we get things dialed in for the months to come and make sure that you're ahead and prepared for the win in 2026. So if anybody's have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, thank you for coming. I appreciate it. Thanks, guys. And I'll shoot you an email and we'll try to set up for a webinar next week. And feel free to reach out for your strategy session. Thank you, Callie. Sandy, thanks for coming. And we'll talk soon. Okay, Brett. Appreciate it.